Hey, everybody. I'm Lisa Campion, and this is the Miracle of Healing. So glad to have you on the show today. Wow, we have such a story, a conversation that touches my heart in a very personal way. So, my guest is Jackie Rubio. She's the author of From Murder to Messages. And Jackie is a mother, a healer, an incredible channel, psychic, and one of my own students. So, I've had the honor of witnessing her journey up close. And her life was shattered when her son Devyne was violently taken from her. And I mean, gosh, I don't think we have grief that's any deeper than losing a child. In her darkest hours, something really incredible happened. She started receiving psychic messages, feathers, synchronicities, phone calls, signs from beyond, illuminating a path she didn't even know was there. Her book is a raw, honest account of walking through unimaginable loss while staying sober, holding her family together, and ultimately discovering that the bond between mother and child stretches beyond this lifetime. So it's not an easy conversation to have, but a really important one for anyone who's ever wondered how we go on after the unthinkable has happened and whether or not love truly transcends death. Welcome to the show, Jackie.
Oh my gosh, Lisa, thank you so much. That was such an introduction. I feel really honored to be here. Thank you so much for that. I'm just so glad I'm here.
So glad that you're here too. And yeah, let's start with sharing your story. I know it's a tough story, but it's an important story. And I think you have tremendous courage in telling it, especially telling it over and over again. But yeah, let's share a little bit about what brought you here.
Okay. Yeah, it is a little bit of a tough story. So, I try not to sugarcoat it because it's my reality. And it's also such an important part of who I am today when I sit in front of you guys and I say that, I went through the unimaginable. I was a single mom. I had 4 kids and I had really struggled with drugs and alcohol. I did my very best when I was raising the kids, but I later on, when Devyne was like a teenager, I really started drinking a lot more than I had previously. So it was a real tumultuous household for us, but I never could give up on my kids. I never could just, walk away from them or, let their dads raise them or anything like that. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle out of love. But it definitely was a struggle. And it really, I would say, forged who my son Devyne was as a human being. He wanted to be completely different than me or the rest of his family. He was very straight-laced. He had like this really crazy moral compass that was like everything was black and white to him. And he didn't put up with any of my stuff, like if I was drinking, he just wouldn't talk to me. If, I had a consequence from drinking, a DUI or a broken bone or something, he didn't feel the bit sorry for me. So he really towed the line, and it made me a better person and it made me a better mom because I really wanted a relationship with my kids. And so I'm really grateful, but I was able to get sober. And I was able to start rebuilding my relationship with my adult children, and Devyne being number 1 on the list because he had my grandson. he had my darling grandson. And so I worked really hard to reestablish those relationships, to not break his trust, to, create a safe environment so that he would feel comfortable and that I could have a relationship with my grandson and I could have a relationship with him. And all of that was like the core of my life there for a while. And it started getting better. Everything started getting better. Devyne and I enjoyed an adult parent relationship, and I could see that he was beginning to trust me, that he was also, I would almost say, admiring me. Because I didn't just get sober. I got sober and started helping people. I got sober, started a women's empowerment nonprofit program. It was like really in my heart to not just, be sober myself, but to help anyone else who was struggling. So that's kind of a long description. I apologize for that, but that's kind of where we were, my family dynamics. And he had gotten married very early. He was 20 and he married, I believe his ex-wife was 18. They had met in youth group. He was really, Devyne had a heart for Jesus. And he really loved church and attending churches and, just more like everything opposite of what I was. Our house was like loud, drunk, chaotic. And he liked to go to his pastor's house and his pastor's wife who made cookies and, things like that. So he ended up marrying this girl that he was in youth group with. And they instantly got pregnant. He was very, like I said, he was really moral and upright. So he saved himself for marriage. He had never had any other sexual partner. And they instantly got pregnant. So my grandson was born, and wow, my life changed. I was like an amazing grandma. I loved being a grandma. Everything just changed with my grandson. But unfortunately for Devyne, as soon as that baby was born, his ex-wife changed a lot too. She kicked him out of the bedroom. He wasn't allowed to sleep in there with her and the baby. She was really weird about how much time anybody could spend with the baby. It was really evident like that she had some real strong, I don't know what the right word would be, mental health issues around the child. And so the marriage didn't last very long. And it was really heartbreaking for Devyne because he was so invested in being a husband and being a father, that losing the marriage was really difficult for him. And of course, you have church and you have some of the regulations in church that you're not supposed to be a divorcee and things like that. So Paige quickly moved on. His ex-wife quickly moved on to a same-sex relationship, which really also hurt Devyne deeply, not for any other reason other than he was confused. He didn't understand why he was made to leave the home and leave being a father to the child. And then, so he just didn't understand it. And it went okay for him for a while. They had a lot of discrepancies on how often he got to have visits with my grandson. And finally, there towards the end, he was told that he just couldn't have any visits anymore. She was making accusations against him and he had to go to court and he had to start fighting for his visit time with my grandson. So that turned out to be like very expensive and very stressful. He had to take a second job. And at this point, he had met another woman. He had a fiance and she was beautiful and fun and she had a great family. And Devyne was just like immersed in this like big, loud, lively family. And they did tons of things together and holiday things. And he had to spend his wedding money on the custody hearing. So all of that led up to him suing for full custody. And once he did that, everything changed with his ex-wife. He went to go pick up my grandson for his routine visit. It was December 16th of 2022. And she shot and killed him. It was, no words were spoken. And he was afraid of her. So he had a dash cam installed, mostly because of her accusations, and he didn't want her to be able to say, anything when he went and picked up my grandson. He would always ask her to meet him at the police station, but she wouldn't do it. So everybody was Christmas shopping. Everybody was getting ready for the holidays. It was such a happy time. We had the visits with Grayson back. I had my relationship with Devyne. I was involved with his fiance. I mean, things were going well for us, and my sobriety was powerful. I'd written a book for my nonprofit. Just all this stuff was going on. And she just took his life.
I think that losing a child is so horrific. And then losing a child to murder, I think is even, and Jackie and I have some things in common. I also have a son named Devyne. My son Devyne is still among the living, and I know your grandson's name is Grayson, and my other son's name is Grayson. Isn't that
Yeah,
nice?
it is.
My two sons are Devyne and Grayson. I just was like, wow, when I heard Jackie's story and I heard that coincidence. I was like, oh my God, we have some deep connection. And um, I don't know, like Jackie, like having losing a child is just so horrific, but losing a child to murder is like next level horror. And I know that part of your journey in, I mean, there's no way to really heal that. We just sort of, we don't heal through it. We just kind of get around it, I think, and keep living the next day and the next day. And that this really unexpectedly opened up your psychic gifts. That's the way that happened? Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of spiritual background. I had some old religious beliefs. And I was starting to venture into near death experiences and things like that. But when Devyne passed, I was desperate to find out what happens after we die. Like I just couldn't. My son was 6'4". He was so tall and he was really, really handsome. He was like a real polite kid. I mean, for as tall as he was, and being my offspring, I never knew where he got it, but he was real soft spoken. I mean, he didn't curse. Like he was definitely different than me. And so I just was like, where did he go? He couldn't just be like vanished off the face of the earth or just gone from anywhere. So I did go on a little bit of a deep dive. I started to open myself up to other ways of thinking. And I would say the biggest thing that happened to me that opened all of my gifts, all of my understanding of where we go after our physical body, dies, is it was automatic writing. And I didn't realize that it was automatic writing. So, I was in the most amount of grief I think that a human being could ever imagine. I had a couple things going on. The guilt of the way that I raised him and knowing that he was gone forever and that I could never make it up to him, that he would never see me sober. And the court system took my grandson and left him in the custody of the woman who shot my son 9 times. I went to court. I tried, to sue for custody. I spent all my money. I went into bankruptcy, 2 years of my life, trying to have contact with my grandson, which I still don't. Those were just some deep, deep wounds and deep, deep grief. And sometimes you don't know what to do with yourself. And I was really focused on keeping my sobriety. That was the number one main goal for me, because I knew if I lost my sobriety, I would be useless to everybody, and that I would let my son just die in vain, basically. So I worked really hard on keeping my sobriety, and I would go places, and I remember I would hear what I thought Devyne would have said to me if he were alive. He was a funny kid, and he was kind of a smart butt. And he was kind of a sarcastic guy too. So, I can remember I would be in a restaurant, and I don't know what it was about my grief. I think it was because I isolated so much. And then once I got into public, like anybody who looked at me, like I felt sympathy. So I would literally just bawl all the time in restaurants. And I would start to cry when the waitress would come ask me what I wanted to eat. And I mean, I'd literally not just sniffles, like ugly crying, like snot running down your face. And I can remember in the back of my mind hearing Devyne say, "Ma, you got boogers, go blow your nose." And I was so compelled when I would hear something like that to stop whatever I was doing and write it down. I wasn't together enough to journal or to, say what my feelings were every morning. But when I would feel like if Devyne were alive, he would say this to me right now, and I could hear it just clear as day in my mind. And I would just stop what I was doing and I would write it down. And what I found, like, it would happen more and more and more. And I actually, when I got into like the piece of spirituality and starting to go down the YouTube rabbit hole and things like that, I heard about automatic writing. So I took a class and I realized, oh my gosh, I've been automatic writing this entire time. But then I got to start doing it with more intention, more purpose. And I would, cultivate the space and the time. And my gosh, my son would just come through and he would just, he would tell me all kinds of things about my day or about the universe or about what it's like where he's at. And it became just almost poetic in nature after a while. And
Yeah.
then he stopped saying I and he started saying we. And I didn't understand that concept when I would write with him. And it kind of bothered me at first. And I know that we both have a mentor in common that we love so much, Suzanne Giesman.
Yeah.
And I sent her some of the information that I was writing about the we. And I literally was crying because I didn't understand, where did my son go? Like, is he just absorbed into this big consciousness blob and he's not an individual anymore? It was really difficult for me to understand what was happening. So, I got to kind of start to have a relationship with him as an individual, and then this amazing relationship with him as the we, with him as all there is, and he would be able to bring me like higher beings in when I wrote, and, just a stream of consciousness. And so, yeah, that's kind of a long story, but I had a lot of gifts open up because of that. And still, sometimes Devyne, he does tell me my psychic stuff. When Devyne was on the earth, he did not he wasn't drama. He didn't do anything dramatic, but boy, did that kid like drama. If there was a small town gossip happening, I lived in a different state and he would call me and make sure I knew all about it. So what I notice is when I have someone come on that has, relationship questions or psychic questions about, their job, or, if a boss is true, or if their boyfriend is cheating, just things like people want to know when they come for psychic sessions. He is right there. I mean, he just tells me straight out what is going on in their lives. So I do appreciate when he does that. It's very helpful for me and the client. So yeah, lots and lots of gifts opened up
That's
after.
so amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. And I think, I think it's one of the ways that people wrestle with, especially the loss of a child, is trying to find out like what happens to them on the other side. And what does he tell you about it? What does he tell you? What did you learn about what it's like on the other side?
So a lot of the things that he's talked about to me was when he first passed, I wanted to know what he was doing all the time, and I got just and it's in the book, so I won't say it on here, but I got just some miraculous signs and proof about what he was doing. And some of what he was doing was experiencing things on earth that I guess he didn't experience because he was sort of a small town boy. He never really he didn't want to do anything besides get married and have a kid and have a 401k plan and pay his taxes on time. I mean, that's just who he was. So he explained that to me. And then a lot of trying to help me understand that we are all one. He will tell me in 1,000 different ways for me, because it's really difficult to digest that and understand that. So he gives me analogies all the time, that if somebody is, in town jumping rope or something like that, he will show me that I am that person. He has shown me often, that I am him and that I am his fiance, and that, what I've gone through in my life, my kids have gone through just as if they were me. But he's also showed me that it's the same thing with guides and guidance systems. My higher self, that's what I call in Archangel Michael for healing. I'm still in essence calling in myself. I think he's been really particular with me for me to understand not to give my power away all the time. That we are like sovereign, and that we are as powerful as any of the higher beings that we ask to come in. I don't know why, but that seems to have been important to him that I know that. So I've learned a lot of that. I know that you and I, done like a quantum healing class where there's a lot of science involved in it. And my son is all about the science. When he first started talking to me and I first finally started admitting, holy crap, I am hearing from him and he's dead. I don't, and I was like, this is like magic. And he would pop into my mind every time, and he'd show like he's at a chalkboard and there's, algebra equations and stuff. And he's like, nah, Ma, it's all science. It's all science. So whenever I learn anything new about, like as far as how many layers of the body we have, or how the universe works or quantum theory works or string theory or any of that stuff. He's showing me, you know, in visuals and in sort of like real life, I would say analogies, how it works.
That's
So
so cool. I
he's
love that.
got that. But his main thing he tells me all the time is that where he's at and where we're all going to go, it's only love. It's really all love. And to like, if I get upset, you know, maybe one of the kids didn't do the dishes, or, you know, I'm waiting in the line too long at the store. He's like, Mom, really? Like, it's only love where you're going. You need to chill out.
That was fascinating. And how did the book come about? So your book from murder to messages is mostly channeled, mostly written through automatic writing. Is that right?
It does have a lot of automatic writing in it. I would say, couple years after he passed, I kept seeing in my mind's eye, this book. I knew the name of the book. I knew that it was going to be like, he put the little bestseller mark on it. And I would see sometimes right when I would go to sleep, some paragraphs that were going to be in the book. So I did start to kind of jot it down and write little notes and things like that. But, this summer, I really just got intentional, and I was a little bit scared to do it. And the first parts were really hard because I recalled, you know, some details in his death and things like that. And once I got past that, then yeah, it was maybe the best time of my life, to be honest with you. I would sit at the computer and I don't know what would happen, but 8 hours could go by, you know, which is ridiculous for me because I mean, I have to pee every hour. So for me to be able to sit and just like, you know, have 8 hours go by of writing, of taking notes, and I don't know, it's just such a joyous experience. And it was all just like the automatic writing. I could hear it come into my mind before it typed out, you know? And so I literally, I mean, it's not an incredibly long book. I don't want to overwhelm anybody with my sad story. I really wanted to get them to know Devyne, to know the things that I did to make myself feel better, or the things that were provided to me resource wise for me to do any healing, to move on, to stay sober. But I wrote the book in probably 60 days.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote it in about 60 days. And it's not a New York Times bestseller like Devyne said it would be yet. But it is an Amazon bestseller. So he wasn't too far off. There is a little bestseller tag on it.
That's great. I know you also work with an organization that helps parents who've lost children. Can you share a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so I definitely it's an organization, it's a nonprofit called Helping Parents Heal, and it's a huge part of my story. When Devyne first died and first got murdered, I went to like a compassionate, caring, you know, grief group, and I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, like I'm an alcoholic, so I don't have the luxury of staying angry or staying bitter, because I know that those are the things that will make me drink. So I mean, and people were coming in and they'd lost their child, not even to murder, just lost their child years before. And they were still so angry and so, you know, raw, emotional. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't think I can, I won't make it. I mean, I won't make it. I'll either drink or I'll lose my life. Like, I just don't think I can do this. And the same, I went to a murdered children's chapter, and wow, the same thing. So I found Helping Parents Heal through Suzanne Giesman. And I wrote a lot about this, and it's an organization. They are a support group, but they go one step or many steps beyond that. They allow talk about the afterlife. They are not dogmatic. They're not religious. You know, they allow resources, vetted mediums, you know, vetted people who know about consciousness, sciences that study consciousness, where it goes, near-death experiencers, and they do it in a safe container. You know, you don't, when you're grieving, you're just so open. You could, you know, trust somebody you shouldn't trust. They could take your money, you know, it's like, so this has like been a life changer for me. I'm really grateful for it. I'm really thankful for it. Devyne started coming in loud and clear when I started to get involved in this group, because there's so many of us with the same intention of connecting to our children. And you start to understand, like, oh, it is normal. People are doing this. Your kids are still here. They're sending you signs. So I think that made a huge difference. And now I know I've come a little bit full circle with it, because I was able to help be a affiliator. What's the word?
Facilitator?
Affiliate. A co-affiliate, facilitator for the chapter. They made a special chapter now for parents who've lost children through violence. It's called HAND, which is homicide, abuse, negligence, and domestic violence. So next, I'm excited. I mean, I'm nervous and excited at the same time. So next month will be our first meeting. So other parents who've experienced the loss of their child through murder will have a safe place to come through helping parents heal now.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that you also do psychic readings for people and Reiki healings and quantum healings. So if anybody who's listening feels inclined to work with Jackie, she's a fantastic healer and psychic, one of the best that I know. So Jackie, share a little bit about where people can get in contact with you.
Well, I do have a website, JackieSuzanne.com. And I also do a lot through my Facebook page. It's Light After Darkness. And I do free group healing on there every month. So for grief, or just for whatever it feels like we're all going through. So I do that on the Facebook page, and I do a lot of also opening space and teaching, like, how to do your own automatic writing, how to connect to your own guidance system. Because I just felt like what that did for me was incredible, and I want to give that to other people to the best of my ability. So I've been booking sessions for that as well.
That's great. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, for writing your book From Murder to Messages, for sharing your work in the world in all the ways that you do, and sort of standing as an example of how we as humans can get through things that we think ought to kill us. That there's no getting through that. And I'm so glad that you're still here. I'm so glad that you're here doing the work that you're doing. And I'm so glad you've joined us on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just honored to be, the classes that I take from you and the mentorship, I mean, it has made all the difference in the world for me. Whenever I do Reiki attunements, I always tell them, buy your book, The Art of Psychic Reiki, because that's how I got brought to you. I got my Reiki, early on, and I was really confused because of all the psychic stuff that was going on. I didn't understand it. So I really appreciate that you wrote that book.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. It took me a little longer than 60 days, I'll tell you. It took me a whole year to write that one, but yeah, thank you. Thanks to all of you for tuning in and listening to this incredible story. I hope that it, touched you. It always touches me to hear more about it. And if you want to find me, you can find me at lisacampion.com. I work with emerging psychics, healers, and empaths, helping them train up their skills, because, man, the world needs all the healers it can get, and it's getting crazy out there. So we need to come together and support each other. And that's what we're doing here in the Miracle of Healing, where we are saving the planet one person at a time, healing the planet one person at a time, right here on the Empower channel.